I never imagined I'd see my former maid at the airport. What happened next was unbelievable. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. I was rushing through the bustling terminal, lurching past families, couples, screaming children. My heart raced like the engines of the planes above me. Every movement felt heavy. I clutched my bag like a lifeline, breath hitching in my throat. Then, I saw her. Clara. My former maid. She stood there, frozen in the crowd. Her eyes widened with disbelief, the faintest tremor in her hands. I squinted, seeking signs of misinterpretation. Was it really her? The woman who once kept my house in order, made my breakfast, the one I had let go after my parents divorced? She was now dressed in a stunning emerald dress, shimmering under the fluorescent lights. A stark contrast to the worn-out clothes she used to wear. My heart clenched. I knew her life hadn't been easy. Her family struggling back in Mexico. Yet here she was, somehow transformed, sparkles in her hair and a grace that felt almost foreign. My mind spun. 1,000 questions erupted in my brain. Why was she here? Had she won the lottery? Was she flying to meet someone important? I took a shaky step forward, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Around us, the world continued to spin. Announcements crackled through speakers, suitcases rolled on the ground, and people shuffled, completely unaware of this unfolding mystery. Clara. I croaked, my voice barely breaking through the noise. Yet, she didn't seem to hear me. Instead, her gaze darted urgently past me. Fear flashed across her face, not fear of me, but fear of something else. Everything slowed. Seconds stretched like hours as her eyes locked onto something in the distance. I turned, curiosity mingled with dread. What was she seeing? My heart thudded painfully as I spotted a shadow, a dark figure lurking behind a column. A man, his face hidden, just watching her. Clara. I shouted again, this time louder, panic bubbling within me. What was going on? The air thickened as tension crackled like electricity. My stomach twisted into knots. I felt a chill sweep through the terminal. In that moment, she finally met my gaze, and it was electrifying. You shouldn't be here. She whispered, her voice trembling, eyes wide. Tears glistened on her cheeks, and I could only stare in shock. Why was she afraid? Her face paled, and I realized I was the only barrier she had. Time felt fragile, everything balancing on a knife's edge. Clara, who? But then she bolted. Just like that, she was gone, weaving through the crowd, disappearing into a sea of strangers. All I could do was stand there, heart racing, mouth agape. The swirling chaos of the airport suddenly felt suffocating, and I was left grappling with the question: what had just happened? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. My legs felt heavy, rooted to the ground as the crowd rushed past me. Clara's fleeting figure disappeared in the throng, but I could still feel the weight of her gaze, the urgency in her voice. I spun back around, scanning the area for any sign of the man who had sent her darting away. My heart pounded in my chest, a mix of concern and confusion swirling inside me. What was she so afraid of? I muttered to myself, pushing through clusters of travelers. Each stranger felt like a potential witness, each face, a mask hiding secrets. The collective noise of the terminal dimmed, and in my head, I replayed the split second when her eyes reflected raw fear. The dark figure loomed in my mind. Who was he? Why was he threatening her? The future I had envisioned for both of us, the years we spent together, collapsed into something perilous and alarming. She had been like family. I'd lost her once, but to see her again under these circumstances shook me to my core. I needed answers. Something tugged at my heart, a hint of hope mixed with desperation. Drawing from a sudden resolve, I fought through the crowd, weaving in and out, searching for Clara. I needed to find her, to understand what had just unfolded. As I made my way towards the exit, I felt a shift in the air, a whisper of kindness brushed against my skin. A woman sat on a nearby bench, cradling a child. She was watching me closely with compassionate eyes. "Are you all right?" she asked, her voice warm yet concerned. I hesitated, then nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Just trying to find someone." My voice trembled at the edges, betraying my anxiety. "Trust me, I know what it's like to lose sight of someone important," she replied, her expression softening. "Sometimes, caring for another is the bravest thing you can do." "What is her name?" "Clara," I whispered, the name feeling foreign yet familiar, like an echo of a time that had slipped through my fingers. The woman nodded knowingly. "I'll help you look. I've seen a lot of things in my travels, and sometimes light can emerge from the darkest places." As we moved through the terminal together, her presence calmed my racing heart. Amid my fears, a flicker of gratitude ignited. The next few moments felt fluid and surreal, almost dreamlike, as we navigated the bustling sea of humanity, but the crowd, despite its ceaseless motion, offered no sign of Clara. I could feel desperation clawing at my chest, wrapping around my heart like a vice. Where had she gone? I paused in front of a kiosk, looking down at my phone. I had a slew of missed messages, reminders that my life continued even as this moment consumed me. I frowned at the screen, an overpowering sense of disconnection pulling at the edges of my mind. There, a message from my mother caught my eye. "I heard you saw her. Be careful." Suddenly, the woman beside me gasped. "Look." She pointed toward a corner, where the dark figure was now standing, clearly visible against the glossy tiles of the terminal. It was him, the man who had triggered Clara's flight. My heart dropped. "Stay here," I breathed, turning to face the woman as the anger boiled inside me. I didn't know who he was or what he wanted, but I felt a solid wave of protection surge through me, igniting my urge to confront him. Without a second thought, I steeled myself and approached, weaving through the throng of people like a lion hunting its prey. Each step felt deliberate, challenging, and the closer I got, the more menacing he appeared. He was tall, shadowed in a long coat, his eyes studying me with an unsettling intensity. "You shouldn't be here," he spat, his voice low, grating like gravel. "You're meddling in matters that don't concern you." I took a breath, refusing to back down. "You have no idea who I am," I countered, every word dripping with the courage I was unwilling to let go of. "But you are scaring her. She needs help, and I'm going to find her." As I stood my ground, a chilling realization washed over me. He wasn't just a stranger, he was a threat, aware of Clara's secrets and the weight they carried. "You don't know anything about her," I added, but that moment, a flash of doubt flickered, and then, in the midst of our standoff, my phone buzzed again, vibrating in my pocket as if to signal impending danger. I spared a glance at the screen, and what I saw sent cold dread through my veins. It was a photo from Clara. Her terrified face, hidden behind a long, dark hallway with an ominous caption, "Help me." My heart sank as the ground shifted beneath me. Time seemed to freeze again, a bleak realization setting in. This was much bigger than I had anticipated. I had to find Clara. And I would do anything to bring her back to safety. The moment froze, a palpable tension hanging in the air as I stared at Clara's frightened face staring back at me from the screen, her wide eyes reflecting a desperation that shook me to the core. My fingers trembled as I processed the message, the caption echoing ominously in my mind. I cussed under my breath, feeling the gravity of her situation as a wave of dread washed over me. "Your time is running out," the man sneered, his voice a sinister whisper that made my skin crawl. You have no idea what you're getting into. I took a careful step back, trying to keep my composure. But the doubt grew like a shadow, threatening to engulf me. What do you want with her? I shot back, my voice surprisingly steady despite the storm churning inside. Just stay out of this, he warned again, but something in his eyes flickered, an uncertainty I was desperate to exploit. You don't know her like I do. Then tell me. I demanded, the words slipping out before I could second-guess myself. You know something. If you care about her at all, you'd help me. A moment passed where the rabble of the terminal faded into silence, and we were just two souls bound by the danger that threatened the woman we both cared for. The surrounding faces were ghostly, like bystanders to a movie playing out in vivid technicolor. Yet he remained a wall, unyielding as granite. Like I said. You don't want to get involved. He began to back away, merging once more into the crowd, and with him, any chance I had to uncover the truth about Clara's fears. Suddenly, the woman who had accompanied me spoke, stepping closer to me, her hand on my arm. Let us find her. This isn't over yet. Her gaze shifted toward the figure retreating into the crowd. We need a plan. Do you know where to start? I replied, wild-eyed. Clara's urgency rang through my ears like a bell, and my heart was a drumbeat of panic and determination. I might have an idea, she said quietly, her voice carrying an enigmatic weight. But we have to be careful. This man, he holds more than just a grudge. He has influence. Influence? Like a gangster? I was still reeling from the revelation and the thought churned my stomach. Had Clara been protecting me all along? Was she caught in a world darker than I could comprehend? She nodded slowly, her brow knitted with concern. Not just that. It's the people surrounding him, they don't play by the same rules we do. With determination igniting my instincts, I mimicked a slight nod. Then we need to figure out where he takes her. Who she's involved with that escalated to this. But we have to be discreet. As we moved toward the information booth, I scanned the terminal for any sign of Clara, the familiar tug of desperation growing heavier in my gut. I felt myself spiraling inward. This wasn't just a rescue mission anymore, there were layers intertwined in Clara's life that I had yet to uncover. Clara, where are you? I whispered under my breath, pleading for a guiding voice, a divine intervention even. The woman at my side took charge, her demeanor shifting. Let us find a quiet spot. You need to stay calm. There was a coffee shop tucked in the corner, vibrating with travelers absorbed in their routines. We slid into relative privacy in a booth at the back. The scent of roasted beans filled the air, but I barely noticed. Let me connect you with someone who can help, she said, pulling out her phone. Just give me a moment. I leaned back, staring out the window, my mind racing with possibilities. The woman's fingertips danced across the screen. I glanced around, expecting the dark figure to reappear, a phantom shadow haunting my thoughts. My phone buzzed again, this time vibrating violently on the table, pulling my focus back. It was another message from Clara. The dread in my stomach surged as I opened it. They're watching. Trust no one. God, no. I gasped, narrowly stopping a whimper from escaping my lips. Blood rushed to my ears as I felt the atmosphere crystallize, the walls of the cozy shop stretching closing in around me. What is it? The woman asked sharply, concern etching her features. That I showed her the message, my own fear reflected back at me. If they're watching, we might already be too late, I whispered, my voice cracking under the weight of realization, but as I looked into her eyes, something flickered just behind her expression, a glimmer of something deeper, fear or maybe guilt. I couldn't tell. And for a moment, doubt gnawed at the back of my mind. Do you know something? I pressed, my heart thudding in a rhythm of suspicion. And then, as if the heavens decided to break, she hesitated, looking away for a moment as if deciding whether to share the weight of her secret. I know, she began slowly, her voice trembling. I know Clara's not who you think she is." Before she could finish, the lights in the coffee shop flickered, and the bell above the door chimed ominously, announcing the arrival of someone or something that would change everything. The air thickened as I turned, bracing myself for whatever revelation lay ahead. The sight that greeted me felt like a jolt of electricity, the moment frozen in time as a slim figure, strikingly familiar, stepped into the cacophony of the cafe. I blinked hard, the world around me blurring as recognition surged through me like a runaway train. There she was, Maria, our former maid, her sharp features framed by cascading chestnut hair, and those soulful brown eyes that had watched me grow up. A protective warmth radiated from her, but it was tainted by a palpable heaviness resting on her shoulders. Flashbacks raced through my mind, her laughter in our kitchen, her gentle advice during the turbulent teenage years, the way she always seemed to know my heart better than I did. The woman beside me followed my gaze, confusion clouding her expression. "Do you know her?" she asked, her voice strained with urgency. I could only nod, my heart racing. "She used to work for my family. I haven't seen her in years." A rush of hope mingled with anxiety surged through me. If anyone could help connect the dots surrounding Clara, it was Maria. But in the next breath, I felt the weight of something darker unfolding in her presence. As I rose instinctively, 1,000 questions rushed to my mind. Opportunities long missed echoed painfully. Why had she left? Why was she here now? Before I could move, Maria's eyes locked onto mine. A flash of recognition flickered across her face. "Juan!" she gasped, her voice barely above a whisper, saturated with emotions I couldn't decipher. She ran toward me, bypassing the hurdles of tables and startled patrons, and for an instant, the chaotic world of threats and shadows fell silent, replaced by the comforting embrace of familiarity. Our embrace felt like a lifeline, warm, tangible, yet precarious. As she pulled away, unease etched in the creases of her brow. "I can't stay long," she said, glancing over her shoulder as if sensing eyes upon us. "They're watching." The woman beside me shifted uneasily, her eyes darting from Maria to the door and back. "What do you know, Maria?" I implored, anxiously grasping her wrist. "It's about Clara. She's in trouble." "I know," Maria said, her voice trembling. She took a breath, gathering the courage to continue, almost as if the words weighed her down. "I was drawn back here for a reason. Clara, she's involved in something much deeper than you can imagine. Something dangerous." Dread settled heavily on my chest. "What do you mean? What happened to her?" Maria glanced at the woman beside me, her expression conflicted. "The shadows she's been hiding from, they're closer than you think. There's a bond to this place that connects our lives, and Clara's choices have entangled her in a web." The woman interjected, her voice sharp and low. "You need to be careful about what you say, Maria. They have ears everywhere." "Please," I said urgently, pulling her closer to me. "Just tell me. If they're watching, we need to move." "I can help," Maria insisted, her eyes bright with fierce determination. "Meet me after sunset at the old bridge on Santiago Avenue. I'll explain everything." I opened my mouth to protest, the knot of fear tightening, but she shook her head. "Your lives depend on it, Juan. You can't trust anyone else, especially not the ones close to you. They may wear the face of a friend, but they have agendas." Before I could respond, she turned, pausing at the door to offer one last haunting glance, a silent promise caught in the air between us, before disappearing into the world outside, leaving a charge of uncertainty lingering in her wake. The woman next to me released a breath she hadn't known she'd been holding. What did she mean by that? "You need to be careful." "I know, but she wouldn't just show up if it weren't important. We have to meet her." "And what if it's a trap?" she countered, her expression shifting between concern and contemplation. "Then we will find out together." Despite the dread twisting in my stomach, I felt a flicker of hope. Maria had always been a pillar of strength. But a lingering question clawed at me. what had changed in her life that had brought such shadows into her light? Suddenly, a series of muffled voices erupted from the entrance, pulling my focus as a group of men strode in, commanding the room with an aura of malice. "We need to leave," the woman urged, her tone urgent. I could feel my heart racing once again, a cacophony of fear and resolve crashing into each other. Another message buzzed through my pocket, this time from Clara. "Trust no one. I don't have much time." The group drew nearer, their predatory eyes scanning the cafe, the ominous threat of their presence weaving tendrils of panic through my mind. "What do we do?" I whispered, adrenaline pumping in time with my heartbeat. "Run," she said simply, grabbing my arm with a fierce grip. We bolted from the booth, flipping through the doorway just as the men reached for us, the oppressive weight of anxiety palpable at my back. Hope hung by a thread as we dashed into the maelstrom of the airport, but the shadows of doubt lingered just behind us. The breath of uncertainty filled the air like smoke in a crowded room. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was spiraling and soon, it would all come crashing down. "Who is Clara, really?" I questioned, fear threading through my voice even as we ducked behind a kiosk. Her answer was a whisper away from my ear, a revelation I had been dreading to hear. "She's not just your ordinary girl, Juan. She has ties that run deeper than you could ever understand." "We have to hurry," but as we peeked through the kiosk, I felt a chill wash over me. One of the men from the group had locked eyes with me, their gaze piercing through the crowd like a hawk honing in on its prey. And in that moment, as uncertainty swirled thick in the air, the terrifying weight of the truth loomed closer. What if the very person I thought I knew, Clara, was already lost to the darkness? The chaos of the airport faded into a distant hum as I crouched behind the kiosk, my heart hammering in my chest like a caged animal. The figure of the man from the group lingered in my peripheral vision, his gaze scanning the area with a chilling intensity. I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just Clara's fate that teetered on the edge of danger, so did mine, and perhaps Maria's. "Juan," the woman beside me whispered urgently, her voice barely raised above the din of travelers and announcements. "What if Clara has had those ties for a reason? What if she's not the innocent girl you think she is?" I swallowed hard, grappling with the storm of emotions swirling within me. "No," I insisted, shaking my head defiantly. "She couldn't be involved in anything like that." But her eyes flashed with something dark and knowing. "You're being naive. We have no idea what she's gotten herself wrapped up in. Just because you care for her doesn't mean she's safe. That's exactly why we need to find her." I shot back, my desperation pushing me to risk it all. She squeezed my arm, her grip tight as a lifeline. "This isn't just about you anymore. We have to think about surviving the next few minutes." As I weighed her warning, I could see the group of men move closer, their posture radiating authority and menace. My gut churned with anxiety, and my mind raced through potential escape plans. There had to be a way out of this tangled web of threats and looming shadows. "We have to make it to the parking garage," I whispered, suddenly filled with the flicker of a plan. "If we can reach my car, then maybe we can find a place to hide, regroup, figure out what to do next." "Are you insane?" she hissed, her eyes wide. "They LLC us." As if to prove her point, the lead man turned sharply, the sharpness of his gaze slicing through the crowd with predatory precision. I instinctively ducked lower, but the panic rose again in my throat as I spotted another figure emerging behind him, Maria. She was weaving her way through the throng of people, her eyes darting around, searching for something or someone. My heart leapt at the sight of her, filled with yearning and urgent questions. But even in this moment of hope, fear crept in, reminding me of the dire warning she'd given. "Is she with them?" the woman beside me asked, her voice tense with uncertainty. "I don't know," I replied, my eyes locked onto Maria's form. I felt as though time had stretched painfully at that moment, every second weighing heavy with anticipation. I wanted to believe in her loyalty, in the bond we once shared, but doubt gnawed at my resolve. "Are you going to risk it?" She pressed, pulling me back to reality as Maria drew closer to the men that I took a shaky breath, a swell of emotion crashing over me. I have to. Before I had the chance to change my mind, I shot from my hiding place, darting through the mad throng of travelers, my heart pounding with both terror and determination. The woman followed closely, her brown eyes reflecting uncertainty but also understanding this was my choice. As I neared Maria, I could see the conflicted expression on her face morph into surprise. She opened her mouth to speak, but before I could reach her, the lead man surged forward, his hand reaching toward her. "Stop!" I screamed, my voice ripping through the chaos as I lunged forward, adrenaline coursing through me, driving me toward the unfolding danger. In an instant, Maria spun around, her hand shooting up in a gesture of pleading. "Juan, don't!" she yelled, but it was already too late. Time felt suspended as I watched the man catch her wrist with a vice-like grip, pulling her closer. My blood ran cold as the realization hit me like the bitter bite of winter. This moment would change everything. "Is she with you?" he asked, his tone dripping with menace as he pinned her, eyes narrowing at me, calculating every breath. "No!" I shouted, panic flooding my voice. "Let her go. It's me you want." The tension thrummed hot and palpable, charging the air around us. Maria's eyes locked onto mine, and in them, I saw a flicker of resilience but also an undercurrent of fear. "Juan, listen to me." But before she could finish, the man yanked Maria closer, a threat etched in every line of his face. "You think you can just stroll in and take her back?" "I swear I don't know anything," I cried out, desperation spilling into my words. Thoughts of Clara raced through my mind, of the darkness closing in around her, but I needed Maria to be safe first. "Who?" the man began, but I cut him off, desperate now. "Her family. They're tied to something, I don't understand. Let her go, and we'll find a way to help you." The words poured out in frantic earnestness, my heart clenching in my chest. Maria's expression shifted, a subtle understanding flickering in her gaze, but before I could decipher it, the man turned, tightening his grip, and with that, everything shattered. A deafening crack rang out as a shot was fired, echoing off the high ceilings of the airport, and in a heartbeat, the world exploded into chaos. Time resumed, and as Maria's eyes widened in fear, I lunged forward, instinctively shielding her even as the tension of the moment fractured our fragile hope. In that split second, I realized how deep the web truly was. I wasn't just fighting for Clara anymore. I was plunging into a darkness I didn't understand, and the stakes were becoming unforgivably high. Then, as the chaos erupted around me and bodies hit the ground, I caught a glimpse of that man's smirk, an insidious satisfaction spreading across his face as he turned away, and all I could think as everything around me crumbled was that this was just the beginning. Where was Clara? What dangers lurked ahead? The horizon darkened before me as I braced for the unknown, a chilling revelation surfacing in my gut. The shadows tightening around Clara were now coming for me, too. The chaos enveloped me, sounds of panic blending with screams and sirens as people frantically sought safety. My heart raced as I clutched Maria tightly, adrenaline coursing through my veins. The weight of the moment bore down on me, every second threatening to suffocate hope and replace it with something infinitely darker. I pulled Maria closer to me, trying to shield her as the crowd swarmed around us, desperate to escape the turmoil. "You okay?" I asked, my voice strained as I searched her face for signs of fear or betrayal. "Once," she began, her voice trembling. "We need to get out of here now." Her urgency shook me from my daze. I nodded, adrenaline pushing away the encroaching dread. As we stumbled away from the chaos, I could feel the man's lingering presence behind us, his cold laughter haunting me like a shadow. "Where's Clara?" I pressed, feeling the weight of the question settle like a stone between us, our connection marred by fear. "I don't know," Maria admitted, her eyes darting nervously. "But we have to move." "If they find us before," she could finish, a hulking figure burst through the throng of panicking passengers, bulldozing through them with singular determination. Our eyes met, and recognition flickered in an instant. It was Javier, Clara's brother. Juan. Maria. His voice boomed, cutting through the cacophony. He rushed toward us, urgency etched on his face. What's happening? Clara's in trouble, I urged, feeling the desperation surge within me. We have to find her before she disappears, he finished for me, his voice steady but laced with anxiety. I know. It's worse than we imagined. Come on, I have a plan. Javier grabbed Maria's hand, propelling us toward the emergency exit. The world around us felt like a maelstrom, the reality of our situation pressing in, each heartbeat echoing the gravity of our circumstances. As we neared the door, 2 security guards rushed past, hollering orders, a wave of authority crashing down on us as they attempted to restore order. Javier, how do you know about Clara? I anxiously inquired, the implications burning in the back of my mind. He glanced back, his face shadowed but firm. I overheard something while I was waiting for her flight. I think her ties run deeper than just being a caretaker. His words sent a chill racing through me. Clara's innocence felt further away, like a mirage skewed by the weight of truth. What do you mean? I'll explain later, now we can't drag this out, Javier urged as we burst through the exit and into the cool night air. Breathing it in felt like a temporary reprieve, but didn't soothe the fire of anxiety burning within me. We sped toward the parking garage, each step echoing my frantic thoughts. What had Clara gotten entangled in? What secrets lay in her past, hidden beneath layers of normalcy? A sudden honk pulled me back to reality as Javier led us to a nondescript sedan. Get in, he ordered, his urgency evocative of the fear stitching us together. As I climbed in, my heart pounding, I turned to Maria. You trust him? The question slipped out unsteady, doubt still gnawing despite our tenuous alliance. She met my gaze, her brown eyes bright with a flickering fire. Right now, it's not about trust. It's about survival. We can sort the rest out later. With that, Javier punched the gas, the tires screeching as we hurtled into the night. The city lights blurred outside the window, but all I could see was Clara lost and alone somewhere in the dark. What's the plan? I pressed, desperation threading my voice. I know where we can lay low for a bit, Javier said, his tone measured. But we need to gather more information. There are forces at play that we don't fully understand, people who want Clara because of her family. The weight of his words settled heavily, amplifying the tension. What does her family have to do with any of this? I asked, incredulity bubbling up within me. Everything, Javier replied, glancing at us as he navigated the darkened streets. They're part of something bigger. I don't know how deep it goes, but we need to figure this out. For Clara. For ourselves. With each mile we distanced ourselves from the airport, a bittersweet ache filled my chest. Hope thrived alongside fear, glistening shards of light amid the gathering dark. Yet beneath it all, an unsettling feeling loomed. What had we gotten ourselves into? Where was Clara? And as if summoned by my unspoken dread, a thought crept in the man who had threatened Maria. His sneering smile came back, taunting me. The game was only beginning. Just then, a loud bang erupted behind us, the sound echoing sharply through the night. My heart dropped. We weren't safe yet. What was that? I gasped, dread gripping me as I shared an anxious glance with Maria. We're being followed. Javier shouted, speeding up as headlights flared ominously in the rearview mirror. Shadows danced, thrumming with an ominous energy. Hold on. My stomach twisted with fear, yet amid the rushing terror, something clicked. If we were navigating this danger together, deep-seated ties would surface. I had once been a protector, and I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever dark tide was coming for Clara was now aiming for us, too. The road ahead twisted and turned, uncertainty cloaking us like a shroud. As we raced into the void, I couldn't help but wonder, had we been pulled into a nightmare that was just beginning to unravel? And would we even get out alive, or would Clara become another shadow lost to the depths of a life shrouded in mystery? The sedan weaved through the dimly lit streets, my pulse racing as the headlights bore closer, narrowing the perspective of our escape. My thoughts spun like a cyclone, each potential outcome more terrifying than the last. What do we do? I yelled over the growing roar of pursuit. Just hold on. Javier shouted, his grip tightening on the steering wheel, knuckles white in the glow of the dashboard. Maria's fingers clutched mine. Her face was a picture of fierce determination mixed with sheer terror. A rapid fire of questions coursed through me. Why were they after us? Was Clara already in danger? I swiveled in my seat, hoping to catch a glimpse of the car behind us, every shadow a possible threat. The faint sound of a siren cut through the night, a reminder that we weren't just running from faceless pursuers but from forces with intent. Why this sudden interest in Clara? I snapped, both at Javier and the situation that placed all our futures precariously on the edge of an unknown knife. I overheard them, Javier said, furiously working the gas pedal as the car jolted over potholes. They think Clara has something valuable, something her family is hiding. Information, maybe. I don't know everything yet, but if we can figure it out. His voice trailed off, the implications were staggering. Clara had always been more than a caretaker, her life rich with experiences I had only begun to scratch the surface of. Could it be her family's history held secrets that rendered her a target? I turned sharply to Maria. We need to find her. Now. My voice trembled slightly, but there was a note of conviction. We can't let them take her. She squeezed my hand tighter, her eyes glinting with unshed tears but ignited with fierce resolve. We can't give up. She's counting on us. Just then, Javier took a hard turn, disorienting me as the car spun briefly before steadying. My stomach lurched, and I bit back a wave of nausea. Where are we going? I shouted, desperate but unable to shake the sinking feeling that we had already miscalculated our next move. An old storage unit on the other side of town, he replied breathlessly. We can hide out there until we understand what's happening and how to get her back. Do you think they will follow us? I asked, anxiety creeping into my bones. I don't know, he muttered, his eyes darting between the road ahead and the rearview mirror, constantly checking for the pursuing vehicle. But we can't go to the police, not yet. If they're involved, it'll put Clara at risk. The realization settled heavily in my chest, mixing with a wave of uncertainty. I felt the familiar hand of darkness wrap around my heart. It was no longer just about survival, it was about protecting Clara, about facing whatever demons lurked behind her family's past. As we approached a cluster of dilapidated buildings, Javier slowed the car, scanning for anyone else that might be lingering in the shadows. The pressed silence weighed on us, a sharp contrast to the chaos we had just fled. He parked behind a rusting dumpster and turned to us, his breath coming in ragged bursts. We should get out here. It's less conspicuous. I don't like the idea of splitting up, Maria said, her voice steady yet vulnerable. Neither do I added. But we have no choice. You two stay close. I'll scout the perimeter. We slipped out of the car, hearts galloping, sweat beading on our foreheads as we crouched behind the abandoned structure. The air was thick with tension, each creak and rustle setting my nerves on edge as Javier moved ahead to survey the surroundings. Stay here, he insisted, looking back at us. If anyone approaches, call for me. He vanished into the shadows, a fleeting silhouette eclipsed by uncertainty. Maria and I shared a glance, the weight of our precarious situation drawing us closer. I can't believe this is happening, she whispered, her voice shaking slightly. Neither can I admitted, my thoughts straying to Clara. The anxiety clawed at my insides. Had we reached her before it was too late? Was there still time to bring her back safely into our lives? And then it struck me. The last time I had seen Clara, she had been smiling, a glimpse of innocence amidst a backdrop of chaos and impending darkness. It felt like a lifetime ago, and yet here I was, consumed by doubt. A sudden pang of worry gripped me tightly. What if the man who threatened Maria was somehow linked to the threat against Clara? Could they be after something beyond just her family's secrets? Juan, Maria's voice wrenched me from my dive into despair. What if they know we're here? What if Clara? Before she could finish, Javier stumbled back towards us, breathless and wide-eyed. They're close. I saw a car pulling in. We have to move now. Panic surged through me, and the adrenaline kicked in again, demanding action. As Javier ushered us to follow him, I stole a last glance at the moonlight draping the pathway behind us, its soft glow tainted by the shadows clawing at our backs. We rushed toward a back door he had discovered, fear propelling us forward. As we stumbled inside, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that the threads connecting us to Clara and whatever awaited us in the depths were fraying at an alarming rate. Keep moving, Javier urged, slamming the door behind us with a sickening thud. The sound echoed with finality, sealing us within a silence pregnant with unsaid words and quiet dread. We were safe for now. But the looming uncertainty grew like a shadow, and with it, a chilling thought settled in: what if our next move would cost us Clara forever? Just as I clutched Maria's hand, another series of distant echoes erupted beyond the walls, an unforgiving reminder that our nightmare was far from over. The stifling air inside the storage unit was laced with dust and neglect, a stark contrast to the urgency of our situation. I felt my heart pounding in sync with each racing thought. We were in this decrepit place with no real plan, just an overwhelming need to protect Clara, and the specter of danger at our heels. Javier paced nervously, scanning the sparse light that filtered through the grimy windows. Maria and I stood by the door, the silence stretching as if it were a taut wire ready to snap. What do we do now? I finally mustered, my voice hoarse yet desperate. We wait, Javier replied, fists clenched. We need to figure out if they have any leads. Hopefully, we've shaken them off our trail. But we can't afford to let our guard down. The air thickened with unspoken terror, and I could feel a storm brewing in the pit of my stomach. Truths that had been laid bare in our escape now shone a blinding light on the fact that we were utterly powerless in the grand scheme of things. But amidst that overwhelming dread, a small ember of hope flickered: the idea that clarity might find us in the chaos. What if one of us goes to look for Clara? Maria suggested, breaking the silence, her voice quiet but filled with a fierce determination. No, Javier snapped, his eyes flaring. We can't risk it. We stay together, at least until we know what we're up against. Wouldn't splitting up give us a better chance at finding her? We could cover more ground, Maria argued, desperation creeping into her tone that I watched their exchange, feeling torn. Part of me wanted to take the risk, to venture out for the sake of Clara, while another part of me understood Javier's caution. We need to have a plan first, I finally interjected, trying to broker peace in the rising tension. If she's in trouble, we need to know who we're up against and what we're really dealing with. Maria sighed, her shoulders slumping in defeat. But before she could respond, the air shifted once more. The distant thrum of an engine echoed through the walls, and it was growing closer. My heart raced, and I took a tentative step toward the door, straining to listen. Do you hear that? I whispered, my throat dry. Javier's eyes flitted towards the door as he nodded barely perceptibly. It could be them, he breathed, his voice low but charged. We pressed ourselves together, every fiber of my being alert and longing for the assurance of safety. The sound of metal grinding abruptly stopped, shrouding the space in an unnerving quiet. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the dim light, illuminated clumsily by an aging lamp swinging from the ceiling. I squinted, my heart plummeting as clarity set in. The person hovering near the entrance was not a shadow from our nightmares but a familiar face, one I never thought I'd see in this context. Clara? I breathed, the name tasting like hope tinged with disbelief. But the response that met my eyes brought the wind crashing out of my lungs. Clara stood there, dirty and disheveled, but alive. Her face was streaked with dirt and fear, hands trembling as she clutched onto the doorframe. I came as soon as I could, she stammered, her voice shaking. They're looking for you, looking for all of us. Clara. Are you okay? I rushed forward, wanting to reach her but stopping short at the fraught expression etched across her features. I'm alive, but I overheard them. They know everything. They know about the information about you too. Clara's voice trembled as she unfolded the chaotic events leading to her appearance. It's worse than we thought. They're more powerful than we imagined. I barely escaped them myself. Hope and dread collided within me, each word sending chills racing down my spine. What do you mean they know about us? I pressed, clutching onto the thread of her narrative. Their aim is not just the secrets my family harbors, it's you, Clara replied, her brows nodding. They think you can help them find something buried, a ledger, names, a history that some people would kill to keep hidden. Just then, a distant voice broke through the thick silence, growing more prominent. She can't get far. Move out. Panic surged through my veins like ice water. We were no longer just fragmented pieces of an unsettling story, it felt like the walls were closing in, and we were being hunted. Clara, you need to get down. I hissed, yanking her away from the door just as it swung open violently to reveal two men, silhouetted against the light like phantoms of our worst fears. Run! Javier shouted, shoving us toward the only exit at the back of the unit. The weight of despair was palpable in our lungs as we fled further into the bowels of the crumbling building, the looming certainty that whatever we would face could change everything or take it all away. As we turned a corner into darkness, I desperately kept hold of Clara's hand. What did you overhear? I demanded, thoughts racing, trying to piece it all together even amidst fear. I found out that my family's secrets are intertwined with yours, Juan. There's something about your past, something they need to make everything complete. The weight of those words hung heavy in the air, evoking a chill that spiraled into profound darkness. Before I could fully process what she meant, we broke into a lesser-lit room at the end of the corridor, a breath escaping my lips as we came to an abrupt halt, because standing between us and any hope of an escape was a shadowed figure, cloaked in familiarity and menace. As a part of my life I thought was lost emerged through the dim light, the very man I never wanted to face again. The figure loomed in the dull light, a haunting shape that brought forth a rush of memories that I thought had been buried along with the past. Isabel. My eyes widened in disbelief and confusion. The years had etched their marks into her features, yet the essence of the woman I once knew remained. She'd been more than a maid, she'd been a steady presence, a comforting figure amidst family chaos. Seeing her now, in this moment of heart-stopping intensity, sent my mind spiraling into disbelief. Juan. Her voice resonated like a fragile echo in this desolate place, a tune of familiarity peaked with apprehension. I didn't expect to find you here or like this. What are you doing here, Isabel? I stammered, heart pounding wildly in my chest. Do you have any idea how dangerous it is? I know exactly how dangerous it is, she replied, her gaze unwavering. That's why I came. I couldn't let you face this alone. Around us, the air felt charged, as if the very walls were listening, holding their breath, waiting for an eruption. Clara stood beside me, her hand tightening in mine, a mix of comfort and trepidation swirling between us. They're coming, Juan. You need to leave now, Isabel urged, her voice urgent, yet the hint of reluctance lingered in her tone. Leave? And abandon everything? I can't. Just the words fell out of me before I could rein them in, desperation cutting through my resolve. We need to find a way to fight back. If they're after us, there must be something we can do. I know what they want, Isabel said softly, stepping forward into the dim light. I know who they are. It's bigger than all of us together. They're looking for a ledger, yes, but it's connected to something more, the secrets of your family, Juan. And Clara, she holds the key. Clara looked pale as if the words had drawn blood from her veins. I'm not part of this. I just wanted to protect my family. She stammered, fear glinting in her eyes. But you are, Isabel stated gently, her words ghosting through the charged air. You all are. You've unwittingly stepped into something ancient, something that's been buried for generations. You can't ignore it any longer. A far-off sound of boots echoed through the darkened hall. We don't have time for this. Javier hissed, his agitation mounting. We need to move no matter what is happening here. No. Please, listen. Isabel implored, raising her hands imploringly, her voice cutting through the panic like a lifeline. It matters. I can help you. I know the ins and outs of this tangled mess. They're not just after your lives, they're obsessed with erasing your connection to it. Your family is linked to something powerful. Powerful enough to kill? I challenged, the words crawling from my throat as fear wormed its way into my heart. Isabel nodded soberly, her expression crumbling under the weight of the truth. They've killed before to erase any trace. You're standing at the threshold of a legacy you never wanted. Trust me, you can't turn back now. Those men will stop at nothing to secure their hold on the past. The urgency in her voice pierced through the suffocation of dread that surrounded us. The walls themselves felt as if they were closing in, sealing our fate. But hope flickered weakly within me. Could this former maid truly hold the answers we needed? What do we need to do? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. We need to get to the cellar, she replied, glancing nervously over her shoulder. It's where the last piece of the puzzle is hidden, a compartment beneath the floorboards, just as it was when I last saw it. If you find it, you could possess the leverage we need to protect yourselves. Why would you help us now? Clara whispered, fraught and wary. Because desperate times call for desperate measures. You all deserve a chance, and I won't let fear dictate how this ends, not when I can fight back, Isabel said, her determination shimmering within the shadows, a beacon against the turmoil. The tension hanging between us thrummed thickly. I took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of the situation, the unwavering threat looming just outside. We had one shot, and with the seconds slipping away, doing nothing was not an option. Before I could voice my decision, a surge of footsteps echoed through the storage unit. A flurry of urgency propelled us back into alignment. Go! Javier shouted, propelling Clara and me towards a narrow corridor at the edge of the room. I could see the flickering lights of the exit illuminating the path ahead, but the dread of the approaching crewmates clawed at my nerves. Follow me. Now! Isabel urged, darting toward a door concealed by stacks of old crates. Within seconds, we dove after her, heartbeats matching the rapid tempo of our fear. As we squeezed through the door, an unexpected wave of warmth washed over me. The delicate balance between past and present began to unravel, and I felt a thread of connection with Isabel I hadn't acknowledged before. But her next words crystallized the uncertainty that clung to each breath. The ledger could change everything, Juan. But it will also reveal secrets about your family that could shatter the last embers of your world. Before I could answer, a loud crash punctuated the dark, echoing behind us like thunder, cementing the finality of our choices. The silhouette of men flooded the exit we had just left, their shouts jagged snapshots in the air, vibrant with the anticipation of danger. As we ran, I turned back to catch a glimpse of the frantic figures, an overwhelming sense of dread coiling tightly in my stomach. Because buried deep within those hauntingly familiar faces was a darkness I couldn't comprehensively understand but felt intrinsically bound to, and just as Clara pulled ahead, breathless and nearing the threshold of an uncertain fate, the shocking revelation nested in the back of my mind broke free. This weathered history was intertwined with mine, and like the raging storm within the walls, I realized I might not only lose Clara, but also the very fabric of my identity as we stumbled into a confrontation with the past. The sound of feet pounding against the concrete floor echoed like the relentless beating of my heart as I raced through the dimly lit corridor. Clara clung to my side, her breath ragged yet filled with a determination that ignited something fierce inside me. We were running toward a future riddled with shadows, with Isabel leading the way, but the echoes of our past loomed larger than life, suffocating the hope I desperately clung onto. Faster! Javier urged from behind, his voice a shot of adrenaline coursing through me, urging action where uncertainty threatened to drown our momentum. The air around us crackled with tension and urgency, and I couldn't ignore the stinging in my chest, a reminder that time was quickly slipping through our fingers. That we veered into a narrow stairwell just as the shouting grew nearer. The walls felt oppressive as dark memories danced at the edges of my awareness, but I forced them aside. Clara needed me. My family history, the secrets Isabel had hinted at, none of it mattered if I didn't keep her safe. What's down here? I gasped, eyes darting to Isabel, who was leading the charge. She didn't look back, her focus unwavering. It's a cellar. The ledger should be hidden deep beneath the floorboards. But we need to be quick, there's no telling how far they are behind us. With each passing moment, dread settled heavy in my gut, but I couldn't allow fear to grip me. We have to trust her, I whispered to Clara, feeling the warmth of her presence grounding me against the icy grips of uncertainty. Isabel's doing this for us. Just make sure what she's doing is right, Clara replied, her voice tense, echoing the concern gnawing at us both. There was so much to unpack, so many revelations I didn't fully understand, but there was no time for hesitation now. The doorway at the end of the stairwell opened into a cavernous underground room, cloaked in shadows and the musty scent of abandonment. It was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos we'd just escaped. Isabel paused before a worn wooden door, breathless yet resolute. "This is it," she whispered, her eyes sparkling with the fervor of someone who had spent years waiting for this moment. As her hands moved to push the door open, Clara stepped closer to me, uncertainty glimmering in her eyes. What if this doesn't work? What if whatever is hidden down there only brings us more danger? I reached for her, wrapping my fingers around hers. We will face whatever comes together. But whether it's dark or light inside, this is a part of us. We can't walk away from our history any longer. Just as Isabel pushed the door ajar, a pounding reverberated from above, heavy footsteps racing down the stairwell after us. They've found us. Javier shouted, urgency cracking his voice. Stay back. I ordered Clara and Javier, holding my breath as I stepped through. The air in the room shifted, an unsettling weight pressing down on me as I surveyed the space. Dust danced in the soft rays of light filtering through cracks in the walls. Before us, wooden crates lined the walls, yet my eyes were drawn to the floorboards beneath. Look for a loose board. Isabel called out, kneeling beside the old wood, fingers trembling with anticipation. My heart raced as I joined her, prying up a corner while we could still hear the chaos above echoing in our ears. "One, over here!" Clara shouted, her voice barely piercing through my frantic instincts. I discovered a gap, and Isabel's excitement fueled my urgency. "Help me!" I grunted, heart pounding. Together, we pried a weathered plank free, revealing a small compartment nestled within. Inside lay an old leather-bound ledger, its cover cracked and faded with age, but the weight it held felt more significant than mere pages. As I reached for it, a frenzied burst of footsteps reverberated closer, and suddenly, through the entry, the shadows breached. "There they are!" A voice roared, an intimidating silhouette emerging to command the darkness. Just as rage ignited within my veins, they had found us. "Grab it!" Isabel urged, urgency flaring in her eyes. I pulled the ledger from where it had lain hidden, my heart soaring against the dread that tethered us. "Go!" I yelled, shoving it into Clara's hands. Just then, an arm shot out from the doorway, wrapping around Isabel's wrist. "You think you can just walk away?" The figure snarled, dragging her back into the void of the corridor. My heart slammed against my ribcage as I lunged forward. The chaos erupted into a violent whirl, and in that tangle of limbs and desperation, time shifted, every second morphed into eternity. "No!" I cried out, but the grip of shadows had seized Isabel, forcing her backward into the darkness. "One, help!" she pleaded, a note of fear lacing her voice in sharp contrast to the threats growing more menacing. "Javier!" Clara! I shouted, afraid to let fear overtake me. We must get out. Not without Isabel. Javier roared, scrambling toward the doorway. The figure now loomed, a hulking threat entirely fueled by malice and embodiment of everything we were trying to escape. Leave her! I yelled, but he smirked, the cruelty in his gaze unmistakable. Ah, but you are too late, my friend. This isn't just about her. It's about something far greater than you could ever comprehend, he taunted, adrenaline surged, and my instincts kicked in. We can't let fear dictate our choices. I yelled, feeling Clara's steadfast hand beside me. We know what we've become, and we fight for one another. Clara's grip tightened as she pulled me back, her eyes locking onto mine with a sudden clarity. We stand together, she said resolutely, the fear in her voice now steeled with conviction. And in that moment, everything crystallized an understanding, a breaking point. The past, the truth, the chaos, it all converged like a tidal wave, ready to crash. With an unholy roar, I charged forward, feeling Clara and Javier steadying behind me, a force of unity emboldened by purpose. Ignacio, the menacing figure before us, grinned with the pleasure of control, but he wouldn't anticipate the fleeting glimmer of power igniting within our vulnerability. As a burst of strength surged, my body collided against the shadow before me, and I felt the weight of my choices converge like a shield. Fueled by family ties and plummeting losses that threatened to swallow us whole, I fought my way back into the light. The ledger clutched tightly in Clara's grasp felt like a piece of history that might strengthen our future together. The screams of our pursuers echoed behind us, but the bonds we forged carved new paths, a place beyond fear and desperation. We had faced darkness, yet what rose to meet it was emboldened light, a promise of redemption thrumming within our hearts, and just as we slipped from the precipice of threat, I turned back one last time, resolute. Even in shadows, we choose to fight for one another. Our past won't bind us, it will free us. Racing through the depths of the darkness, the ledger became more than a simple inheritance, it held a testament to our choices, our unity. With boundaries broken and fragments rebuilt, we charged into the unknown, together and strong, ready to face whatever darkness awaited. Together, Clara echoed, her voice as firm as the sanctuary of hope we forged. In that moment, in the depth of the chaos, I knew our journey wouldn't end with mere survival, it would transcend generations lost in the shadows, resurrecting a legacy we never knew we had. Even amid the turmoil, as echoes of the past played like haunting melodies, I realized the true power of forgiveness, of acceptance, of love. And as the dawn began to break, the first rays piercing through the weighty darkness around us, I understood that we were not mere relics of our past. Together, we would create a future. Together, we can conquer anything. And as I looked at Clara, her eyes shining brightly, we took a breath filled with promises, ready to rewrite our story against the stars. In that moment, a sense of certainty whirled within, that no matter the storm, we would emerge not just as survivors but as warriors eternally bound by love and light.